Sorry about that, I guess. It doesn't do you much good, does it? I should be giving you information. Hard data so you can stop the future. I figured you should know at least who's talking to you. A little bit about my motivation. I wish this was a two-way conversation. I wish I could hear what you were saying. If I could ask you a question, I guess I'd want to know if anybody remembers my wife's name. I don't really care about anything else, but people you have close to you, they're what's important. She was the last one who was close to me. What else can I tell you? What else can I tell you about me? I'm about 6'2", about 180 pounds, I guess. I'm bald. I got a lot of scars. Too many scars. Still got all my digits, though. Haven't had to cut anything up. Come close a few times. The hands have gotten pretty ravaged on. You'd be surprised how quickly your hands can heal. Being a librarian, I get to read a lot. Being as I can read. Reading is a privilege. It's a great honor. It's like telepathy. You can hear what people are saying, trapped in time. I think it's kind of like this. I like to read a lot of history. Not because I'm interested in how we got this way, just because I like to imagine myself living in that time. A lot of parallels to now, since guns are banned. I mean, on the fringe out here, if you don't have weapons, then you're just another piece of meat. The blade is king here. The importance of the shiv, the shank. Everyone out here is armed. In the beginnings, when there's always that uneasy tension, you know, that you're walking around and there's no law on the fringe, but there's groups of people and we've all seen too much violence. Communities police their own. But out here, everybody's well aware of the fact that might really, really does make right. And force is the supreme authority. Communities are forged by fear. We live more in packs than societies. People get rolled. Everybody wears armor here too, because I mean there are still different types of slug throwers. People have made slings, they got rail weapons, they got electronically created garbage, they got even a few real guns float around, but I mean, if you had a real gun, you'd be pretty much forced to protect it pretty good, because everybody would want it. I have a kukri. That's my knife. I've used it a few times. I don't like to talk about it. Sometimes people attack you. Desperate people. People who want nothing more than survive, and they're so savage. Everything's got a right to defend itself. Luckily, because of Carcass, most people leave me alone. Carcass. I don't know if I mentioned Carcass. He's my dog. Well, he's a canine system anyway. I'll tell you more about him later. You can always tell people who got robbed out here when we call them rollers. The first thing they do after you get rolled, you wake up, and if you do wake up, you're doing okay. You didn't get stuffed in a burn booth or get gut sold or anything. It's like a weird ethics of robbing people. They just take your stuff and leave you naked and bloody and stuffed in a burned out car somewhere. If they're lucky, they don't leave you in the street.
I need the old Blade Runner. This is a bad one.
If only you could survive supervised.
I've never enrolled. Tried to help the people who were. I always tell a roller they're naked, and the ones who are smart, the first thing they do is they make themselves a target vest. Target vest is a piece of metal, 2 pieces of metal with holes drilled, and they take scraps of string or wire and they make it like a sandwich board that goes over their chest and back. See, when you're naked, you're obviously not wearing armor. Everyone here wears armor. So, people who robbed you may not want to sell your guts, but there's lots of people out here who do. And they'll take a shot at you. Next order, of course, is to get a blade. Everybody out here has knives, everyone. I mean, guns were a pretty recent invention when you think about it. How long did the blade rule the earth? It's amazing. Sometimes you see guys with swords, Japanese, European style, but swords are worth a lot. So if you've got a sword, you have to know how to use it, because everybody's going to challenge you to try to get your sword. After you chop a few people up, I guess they kind of get the point. But most people with swords have a name. Most people know who they are. In a way, I suppose, a knife is useful, right? Like you use it in daily life, but carrying a sword around, well, that's really only got one purpose, so you're kind of inviting trouble. Kukris are good like that. Half axe, half machete. That's pretty badass when you pull one. I've avoided a lot of fights that way. Sometimes I try to use my height to my advantage, but that only works with the skag gangs who don't know anything. The toughest people I ever met were under 5'5". Savage. Last thing you want to get made for is an easy mark. When you get flesh ripping, I'll explain that later, but they essentially cut up your body and they sell it. Or they'll try to take your head, turn it into skag. Skag is I don't know, I guess I'd call it drugs, but it's not really drugs. Everything's all run by gangs now, right? There's no policing, so what they pay money for heads, fresh heads. I don't know what the procedure is. They crack the head open and they extract hormones from it and sell the hormones as drugs. Get a head of skag, you can get adrenaline and stuff like that harvested from heads. Teenage kids are at high risk, especially when they're around puberty. They'll take the head, stuff the body in a burn booth. Sometimes they won't even pick up the change. Safety. There's no safety here. Just the unavoidable tension of an armed society.